On the anniversary of the 9/11 attacks, Americans and American symbols in 2 Arab countries tonight are under attack by radical Islamist forces, and someone at the American Consulate in Benghazi is dead. Unclear if that
We're not aware of any actionable intelligence indicating that an attack on the U.S. mission in Benghazi was planned or imminent. This is not a case of protests directed at the United States.
It began spontaneously.
We've seen rage and violence directed at American embassies.
Sparked by this hateful video.
Over an awful internet video that we had nothing to do with.
Protests that arose because of the outrage over the video.
This video is disgusting.
Disgusting and reprehensible.
Where there is an offensive video or cartoon.
There was a hateful video.
This is in response to a video that is offensive.
You don't really believe that?
Chris, absolutely I believe that, because in fact it's the case.
But let me say specifically about Susan Rice. She has done exemplary work. She has represented the United States and our interests in the United Nations with skill and professionalism and toughness and grace. As I've said before, she made an appearance at the request of the White House in which she gave her best understanding of the intelligence that had been provided to her.
You weren't there to demonstrate about some obscure film.
As Leon Panetta said, it was obviously a terrorist attack.
The government there saying that they had warned the United States about the situation in Benghazi and that it was deteriorating.
Days before the attack, there were warnings about insufficient security in Benghazi.
Chris Stevens was the first U.S. ambassador killed in more than 30 years.
Said in the months before his death, he talked about being worried about the never-ending security threats.
I don't know how you argue we weren't caught flat-footed.
Specifically about the rise in Islamic extremism and growing al-Qaeda presence.
It leads to questions.
Does it make any sense to you the level of, or the small level of security he apparently had with him?
The White House story crumbling.
I would say yes. They were killed in the course of a terrorist attack.
Hillary Clinton admitted that al-Qaeda was involved.
It wasn't just a mob action.
He said, it is self-evident that what happened in Benghazi was a terrorist attack.
What happened in Benghazi was a terrorist attack.
U.S. officials knew within 24 hours that this was an organized al-Qaeda attack.
Which said the U.S. government knew about al-Qaeda's involvement within 24 hours of the attack.
In the intelligence community, there are those who within the first 24 hours were saying this was a terrorist attack.
Why did Ambassador Rice give the American people bad information?
There is more proof that this was all part of an elaborate cover-up by the administration.
It's either gross incompetence and negligence, or in fact they are lying.
The president has a big investment in the narrative that not only is Osama dead, but al-Qaeda is finished.
And some of these militias are affiliated with al-Qaeda.
Al-Qaeda is very much alive.
Clear that al-Qaeda is alive and well. Bin Laden dead, al-Qaeda alive.
I was pretty certain, and continue to be pretty certain, that there are going to be bumps in the road. If Senator McCain and Senator Graham and others want to go after somebody, they should go after me. And I'm happy to have that discussion with them. But for them to go after the UN ambassador, who had nothing to do with Benghazi, and was simply making a presentation based on intelligence that she had received, and to besmirch her reputation, is outrageous.
President, this morning you went out of your way to avoid the use of the word terrorism in connection with the Libya attack. Right. Do you believe that this was a terrorist attack?
Well, it's too early to know exactly how this came about, what group was involved, but obviously it was an attack on Americans. And we are going to be working with the Libyan government to make sure that we bring these folks to justice, one way or the other.
It's been described as a mob action, but there are reports that they were very heavily armed with grenades. That doesn't sound like your normal demonstration.
Right. As I said, we're still investigating exactly what happened. I don't want to jump the gun on this.
Oh, I see nothing. I was not here. I did not even get up this morning.
Mr. President, let's begin with the news of the day. Were the Americans under attack at the consulate in Benghazi, Libya, denied requests for help during that attack? And is it fair to tell Americans that what happened is under investigation and we'll all find out after the election?
Well, the election has nothing to do with four brave Americans getting killed and us wanting to find out exactly what happened. These are folks who served under me that I had sent to some very dangerous places. Nobody wants to find out more what happened than I do. But we want to make sure that we get it right, particularly because I have made a commitment to the families impacted as well as the American people. We're going to bring those folks to justice. So we're going to gather all the facts, find out exactly what happened, and make sure that it doesn't happen again, but we're also going to make sure that we bring to justice those who carried out these attacks. Were they denied requests for help during the attack? Well, we are finding out exactly what happened. I can tell you, as I've said over the last couple of months since this happened, that the minute I found out what was going on, I gave three very clear directives. Number one, make sure that we are securing our personnel and doing whatever we need to. Number two, we're going to investigate exactly what happened to make sure it doesn't happen again. Number three, find out who did this so we can bring them to justice. And, you know, I guarantee you that everybody in the State Department, our military, C.I.A., you name it, had number one priority making sure that people were safe. These are our folks, and we're going to find out exactly what happened. But what we're also going to do is make sure that we are identifying those who carried out these terrible attacks.
In response to the attack on the U.S. consulate in Benghazi, a team of American commandos was sent from Europe to an airfield at Sigonella, Sicily. That put them about 470 miles, still an hour or more flying time from Benghazi. The team, known as the Commander's In Extremis Force, was designed specifically for quick reaction to unforeseen emergencies. But U.S. officials say it did not arrive in Sicily until after the attack was over. Even if the team had been ready in time, these officials say confusion about what was happening on the ground in Benghazi and State Department concerns about violating Libyan sovereignty made a military rescue mission impractical. That confusion can be read in State Department cables from the day of the attack. At 4:05 in the afternoon Washington time, a cable warned the consulate is under attack. Approximately 20 armed people fired shots. Explosions have been heard as well. 49 minutes later, another cable reported the firing has stopped and the compound has been cleared. In fact, the U.S. ambassador and one other State Department employee were dead, and the attack was far from over. 7 hours later, another cable reported Benghazi shelter location also under attack by mortar fire, a reference to a safe house about a mile from the consulate where some 30 Americans had taken cover. Daylight revealed the safe house had taken a direct hit, killing 2 more Americans.
State Department cables in David's report first appeared on this broadcast last night. Another one that we told you about last night said that the terrorist group Ansar al-Sharia was claiming responsibility for the attack on its Facebook page and on Twitter. Well, today the Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, was asked about that.
Posting something on Facebook is not, in and of itself, evidence. And I think it just underscores how fluid the reporting was at the time and continued for some time to be.
The White House said today that those cables are just part of the story. Thousands of documents are being reviewed.
Here to weigh in on this is Michael Scheuer, former head of the CIA's Bin Laden unit. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, sir.
Now we have the president yesterday saying he doesn't know what happened on the day of September 11th when 4 Americans died. Is that a credible statement? And would the president have been making the decisions about whether or not to intervene on behalf of the 4 Americans that died?
Yes, sir. So much power has accumulated to the President of the United States that neither the military nor the CIA would act without consulting the White House. It's very clear, I think, at least my experience within the government, is that the White House told the Pentagon, told the CIA, no military intervention here. And that was, they consigned those people to death for a reason that's not very clear to me, except that their scenario was Libya was going to be a good democratic country, and it's the farthest thing from the truth. So it's just not credible that the president was not personally involved in this.
More and more evidence is coming out. Now, Fox News has reported, as we discussed, that 3 requests for help were denied, and that C.I.A. operatives went into the battle anyway and lost their lives as a result of it. We have any evidence at this point in terms of what the president was doing at 5 o'clock on that day with the Secretary of Defense and the Vice President? Did he go to the Situation Room? Did he give orders? And why don't we know whether he did or not 45 days after?
You know, I don't know the answer to that, sir, except that there's such a web of contradictions and perhaps lies involved in this that he's just got to avoid.
The ground forces there at the C.I.A. annex, which is different from the consulate, were requesting reinforcements. They were requesting it's called the Sinks in Extremis Force. A group of Delta Force operators are most talented guys we have in the military. They could have come and reinforced the consulate and the C.I.A. annex that were under attack. Now, I don't know if a lot of you have heard this, but the C.I.A. annex had actually had taken a couple of Libyan militia members prisoner, and they think that the attack on the consulate was an effort to try to get these prisoners back. So that's still being vetted.